Alrighty, hello everyone, it's Silver Kyle here, and today I'll be taking a look at the DualShock 4, which is the controller for the PlayStation 4. Now, the system has been out for almost a week now, and I thought that this would be the perfect time to give you my thoughts and opinions of this first new and improved controller from PlayStation. So, Sony used to be of the mind that if it isn't broken, don't fix it. So for the past 3 generations, we have had the same exact controller. At the end of the life cycle for the PlayStation 1, they did add the analogs, and that was a huge leap. However, after that, they kept the same thing. PS2, PS3, exact same controller. And there wasn't anything wrong with that. Honestly, that was an amazing controller. Finally, though, with the PS4, they did decide to change it up a little bit, and in my opinion, really improved the already amazing structure that they had down for the PlayStation controllers. So what I'm going to do is zoom out and add in the PlayStation 3 controller for comparison's sake, because I think the best way to do a review is to compare these two controllers, because as you can see, they are already quite similar with a few adjustments, I would say. Now, the PlayStation 3 controller really is one of my favorite controllers. The only one that I would say is better than it before this came out was the Xbox 360 controller. The placement of the analog stick up here with the D-pad lower just for some reason worked well with me. It just clicked. However, this is still one of my favorite controllers, and I can understand why Sony has never changed it until the PS4. For 3 generations, this worked perfectly. So let's take a look at the changes here. Let's look at the triggers first of all. It's still the same thing with the R1, R2, L1, R2. However, the big difference, in my opinion, is with the back triggers, so the R2, L2, there's not as much resistance with the PS3, whereas with the PS4, there's a little bit more of a resistance there, and the trigger actually comes out more like a real trigger. So it feels that much better, and it's more precise because of the added resistance for when you're playing a racing game or a first-person shooter. Now, on top here, they still both have the ports to connect to your PS3 or PS4 to charge the controller, which is a huge, amazing feature. I love that feature. And the big difference, though, is that with the PS3, it would light up which controller you were, 1, 2, 3, or 4. With the PS4, it lights up this actual entire button here. So first person is blue, for example, and second person is red. It's just a little bit extra, but I really like it. You add colors into this thing with lights, man, I'm sold. I'm easy to please. Now, the next thing I'd like to look at is the face of the actual controller. So for the PS4, the big difference is this giant touchpad here. For whatever reason, Sony decided that this would be a good idea, maybe to compete with the Wii U, and touchpads like the iPad, and just everything is touch now. And it works all right, but I rarely ever use it. I use it a little bit, and I just find it kind of annoying to have buttons so close. So if I want to press the options button, I sometimes end up pressing this instead because it's just so close to it. Not a huge thing, but it does happen every once in a while. Now, they still have, the triangle, circle, X, and square. And honestly, if they got rid of that, this wouldn't be a PlayStation controller. And on the left side here, the D-pads are still there, but I would say that I prefer the D-pad to the PS3. Once again, it comes down to resistance. There's more resistance on the PS3, so it actually feels like you're pressing down, whereas this one, not as much resistance. Very similar, but I did notice the resistance, and I prefer the one on the PS3. Analog sticks are still in the same position. However, the PS4 is not circular. So you see there, they're circular, and you can't grip on anything. The PS4 improved that and have made them just straight and added grips, and it's just that much more precise. You're actually able to hold on to something. So you'd be playing like a first-person shooter, for example, running around and trying to aim, and you would sometimes just kind of slip off. Not really, but it would sometimes move your thumb a little bit more, and it would just be a little bit off. Like you'd be here, and you'd now be over there. It's not a huge thing, but you're actually able to hold on to something when you're using the PS4 controller, which I think is, a huge leap, especially for first-person shooters when you're playing multiplayer. The option button, or the start button, is now the option button, and select is now share. The thing with the PS4 is that Sony has made it so easy to stream videos now. You can just, you know, click the share button and you can share the last 15 minutes of gameplay, or you can stream right away. You click the share button, click on Twitch or Ustream, sign in, and boom, you're streaming. It's that easy, which is an amazing feature, and I love that they've included that. The PlayStation button, home button are still there. And the other big difference, the last big difference, is the look of the controllers. So there's a little bit more of a dip here between the triggers than it is for the PS4. And at the bottom here, they've done, you know, there's once again more circles for the analog, so there's a little bit more of a change. Whereas with the PS4, it's kind of just more like a square. There's still little circles there, but not as apparent. And the actual handles are different as well. There's more room, there's more space here, which is a positive in my opinion. And the handles come in a little bit more. So they feel as if they're a little bit longer, and there's more room for your thumbs, which in my opinion makes it that much more comfortable when you are playing video games. So once again, another improvement on the actual style of how the controller is built. So overall, I would say that the PS4 controller is an improvement over the PS3. There are still a few negatives, like the touchpad, which I don't really care for, and the D-pad isn't as good as the PS3. Still, either one of them, though, is not as good as the Nintendo D-pads, but leaps and bounds ahead of the Xbox 360 D-pad. But still, only negatives are the touchpad, the D-pad, very similar though, and overall though, the addition of the grips for the analog sticks and the actual feel of the controller really puts it above the PS3 controller. So I would give this controller a 9.5 out of 10. It is my... I still probably say that it's my second favorite controller. Xbox 360 is just a little bit better with the placement, but other than that, if they move this over there, I think that this would be hands down the best controller ever made. So thank you all for watching, and let me know what you think if you have tried out the PS4 controller, or just in general what your favorite controllers are. One of my favorites still is the N64. I can't get used to it now, but at the time, I loved that thing. So, you've been Bearded In. Thanks for watching, everyone. Beardage!